Are you optimistic or are pessimistic? Right now, in today's time, it's really hard to stay optimistic and have that glass half full. We have Zoom calls with people running behind. We're trying to help our kids with their homework. Heck, we're the teacher now because there are no teachers at work because they're at home as well. So there's so many things going on with the challenges, the uncertainty, and the news that it's really hard to keep that positive mindset. And we're going to talk about that today.
This is Janelle Bruland. Welcome to the Intentional Leadership Podcast. So when you think of your life, are you generally a person who looks at life as a cup half full or a cup half empty? Are you an optimist or a pessimist? Well, as a business leader, it's so important that we show up with a mindset of optimism. And it's not if we're going to face challenges in our businesses, it's when. And when we do, it's so important to have a mindset that's going to take you successfully through the challenges for you, your team, and your company. So in today's episode, we're going to talk about a positive versus a negative mindset and how you can shift your mind as a leader. We're going to talk about 3 points today.
Yeah, well, I'm optimistic this is not water, but why our state of mind is so important as a leader. And then we're going to know how to improve that outlook. What does that look like? And then some specific ways that we can shift our mind. So why don't you start with why is it important that we are so positive as a leader?
Well, that's a great question. It's so important because our team, our clients, our businesses, as we're the leader, we're being looked to as the example, how we show up, and our attitude is a contagious one. And since our minds are so powerful, if you think about it, we're thinking between 60 and 80,000 thoughts a day. Our minds are crazy, going all the time. And what we think becomes what we say, becomes what we do, and it ultimately is our results. So if we are having that mindset of optimism, then we are going to have the mindset that's going to be able to lead our companies forward. So that's why it's so important as a leader to be optimistic, especially in times of challenge, because as we know what we're going through now, there's a lot of fear. It tends to paralyze people, and we can make choices to live with optimism, and then our team's going to show up in that way as well.
I was thinking of an optimistic time. I was just at the grocery store, and in the corner, in the deli section, there were a bunch of optimistic people having a donut together. I don't think they were supposed to, but they were just having an impromptu donut. Probably not what they're supposed to be doing, but they're optimistic they wouldn't get sick. So do you have another story you could share?
Yes, well, one that comes to mind is we travel a lot for business, up to visit clients and speaking engagements and various things. And we're not doing a lot of travel now, but I think about a few months ago when I was doing a usual trip just out of our local town, Bellingham, to Portland, just a quick flight in the morning. And it was one of those early 5 a.m. flights where I hadn't had my coffee yet. We don't like that flight because you're typically getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning, so you really haven't slept. And I remember getting there and I knew the drill. I was kind of in a fog. I was excited to get through the security line and get to my coffee, which is so important at the end.
For all of us.
For all of us. I'm much happier after and optimistic after I've had my morning cup of coffee. So anyway, I was going through the usual security line and you pull out the bins, you got to put your things in the bins. And so I'm pulling it out, I'm taking my jacket off, I'm putting it in the bin. And suddenly this very positive voice says to me, "You're doing such a great job organizing your bin." And I looked up at her, and here's this woman standing in front of me at, this is before 5 o'clock in the morning, bright smile on her face, and she's just told me that I'm doing a good job putting the things in the bin. And I looked at her and I thought, wow. And I looked down at the bin and I thought, yeah, it did actually. That does look pretty organized. And my chest puffed up a little bit, and I felt pretty good about that. I thought, wow, I'm doing a good job, and it actually made me smile. And then I kind of thought I was somebody special for just a moment until I heard her tell the next person behind me that they had also done a really great job putting things in the bin.
It was the morning travelers. Everybody knows what to do in the morning. It was the 9 o'clock people that just chuck it all in there and forget, and they leave their belt on or whatever it is. So.
That's true. But what it reminds me of is that kind of positive interaction. Every interaction that we have is one that's going to either bring somebody up or bring somebody down. Right. So this woman I don't know if she's naturally cheery at 5 o'clock in the morning or what, but I believe that she made a choice that she was going to put a smile on people's faces as they walked through. I don't believe that she wakes up that way every day. And she was one of the most positive people that I've seen. So that was just a great example, a reminder to me of how we show up is so important in having that positive mindset.
I think that was on her CV when she applied for the job with TSA. I'm positive at 5 a.m. and I'm happy to do body cavity checks at 5 a.m. as well. And so she was hired.
Oh, dear. Oh,
So she's positive all the time. So how can we improve our outlook? Do you have any tips or tools for us to use?
Well, you bet. Well, first of all, I have a question for you to think about. And that is...
That's always scary.
evaluate your mindset. Do you even think about what your mindset is? So the question is, if you look back, over, say, the last year, if you're thinking about it and different things that you've gone through, do you rate yourself as one who is an optimist in most situations or a pessimist? What is that mindset? Are you prone to optimism or are you more prone to negativity? So if, let's just say on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being you're really a pessimist and you tend to go to the negative, or 10 being that you're positive, you're optimistic, and when things happen, you look at the bright side of things. So where would you score yourself on that scale? And wherever you are, I believe that we can move that forward and we can be more optimistic if we actually take the time to be aware of where we're at. So I would say...
Can I go from a 2 to a 10?
A 2 to a 10. That's going to be challenging. Like I said, wherever you find yourself on the scale, you can go forward.
What if you're a 10, you want to be a 5?
I don't think that's going to happen.
Oh,
I don't think that's going to happen.
Just curious.
Well, and I do think that people are, tend to be either an optimist or a pessimist. And I think it's okay that we have people that tend to play the devil's advocate, that look for problems to be able to help us find solutions. But if we're constantly in this state of negativity, that doesn't take us anywhere. So how to improve your outlook is first becoming aware of what your natural tendency is and really asking yourself, what is my outlook and do I want to improve it? And then making that choice to improve your outlook and to choose positivity.
Okay, so first we look at it and look at ourselves internally. Okay, am I positive or negative? And maybe I can inch forward a little bit. Maybe I can go from a 3 to a 5 or a 5 to a 7 or an 8 to a 9. And so then once we internalize that, what do you have any specific things that we can do?
Yes.
Something that we could just stop and say, I'm going to go every time I hit this button here, whether it's a challenge or a person, something at work, at home, whatever it is. Oh, I'm going to stop. I'm going to regroup. I'm going to act this way. Do you have anything specifically we could do like that?
Definitely. So let's talk about some specific ways to shift your mind. So we have to become aware of where we maybe have gone to some negative thinking, become aware of that. And it starts with the choice. We have to choose that we don't want to have that unhealthy, toxic, negative thinking. It does not serve us well. It does not serve the teams that we lead well. So we make that choice. And then we shift the thoughts to something positive. So if we have something negative that comes up in our life, we might find ourselves ruminating with a negative thought. And a practice that I do is I will actually write that thought down. I will think about what is that toxic thought that's going on in my mind, and I write that down. And for me, that's a way of releasing it. And then I write down an affirmation statement, a positive statement instead. What is the healthy thought instead that we need to be thinking on this? So if you're facing a challenge at work, what is a positive state, a positive solution, something that you can do to change your mindset in a positive way? And we had something just come up last week where we were going to be having our quarterly planning meeting with our team. And I have to admit, I was feeling disappointed when I got up in the morning, kind of frustrated and negative, because we love to get together with our team
and eat
and have a lunch together and do whiteboarding and talk about all of our wins for the quarter. And I was feeling pretty negative when I got up because we weren't going to be able to do that.
Right.
And so instead, I made the decision and the choice when I realized, well, this isn't healthy thinking. We talked about it. We thought, well, what can we do instead? And we thought we can still have this meeting and talk about what's going well and what we want to change and have this together. And we're going to figure out how to do it virtually. So we have a restaurant locally that delivers to us, and we got a hold of them and we all picked what we wanted to order, and we just had the restaurant deliver to each of our homes, and then we all got on a Zoom call and we had lunch together.
Right. It was another great way to do it.
Yes.
And, we were on TV, so everybody had ourselves, big screen TVs up, and it worked. We have to adjust during these times, and that's really the piece that you have to remember is the mindset is to make that adjustment. Find that positive. I always wondered why you had hundreds of journals. It's wow. Now I know I'm in trouble.
No, it makes a difference. Another way to do it is we talked about meetings. In your meetings, talk about what's good in your world. And something that we've done for a number of years at our team meetings for work is we start the meeting with what's a positive in your world. And we end the meeting with a positive bookend as well, just saying, what are you most excited about to go do now? When the meeting is done, what's the action step that you're most excited about? And it makes such a difference if you start the meeting where everybody shares a positive in their world, and then you end the meeting where you talk about what you're excited to go work on. It just creates this state of positivity. And in talking about the team together, be open about the behaviors that you want to exhibit as a team. We talked about the role of a leader on the last podcast that we had. And if you didn't get a chance to listen to that, go back and listen to what the role is of a leader, especially in challenging times. But I talked a little bit about gather your team and talk about what behaviors you want to exhibit as a team, as a leadership team, and then be willing to call each other on the behaviors. So if you've decided, we're going to show up in a positive way, we're going to bring positive solutions, that then if somebody is being negative, if I'm being negative, my team members are able to call me on that.
Right. Oh, that's great.
Yeah. Talk about our happy crappy that we do at dinner. We can take this to
kids' favorite part of dinner.
We can take this to our families as well as work. So
That's
talk
right.
about how we talk about positives as a family.
Yeah, well, when we get together around the dinner table, we are eating, and part of what spurs on conversation, especially with, middle schoolers, it seemed to work really well, or you try to, because they seem to just kind of clamp down. But anyway, we have happy crappy. And we go around the table, somebody starts, and we say what was good about the day and what was bad about the day. And then we take that bad and we try to help that person come up with something positive from it. Maybe there's a positive spin, or, maybe we just, the acknowledgement of it's okay. And then we move on from there. But the happy crappy, it kind of engages everybody, and it lets everybody know where they're at for the day and what they might be looking forward to, or what maybe they want more information on or more help from. So we do it a lot.
Yeah, definitely. Great.
Much to our kids' chagrin.
So those are some ideas. One more for you is start your day with a positive mindset. And so right when you're getting out of bed in the morning, start yourself with a morning routine that's going to set you up for a day that you're going to win, your most successful day. And that starts with positivity. Both of us have a morning routine, which involves taking some time, coffee, as well as taking some time to just be grateful for the day and be excited about the day. And if we enter the day with that kind of a mindset, it really makes all the difference. Again, it's back to that choice, making the choice to have that mindset of optimism.
And I also find that finishing the day out is another way of doing that. Just shutting down and looking at all the good things that happen during the day, so that it makes it easier to sleep. And you might sleep through the night if you're thinking about all those positive things, rather than dwelling and stewing on something that is just gnawing at you from the day.
Right.
So I think stopping at the end of the day is almost as important for me personally.
I agree. So let's review what we've discussed in this podcast. So we talked about why our mindset is so important as a leader.
Right.
We need to have that mindset of optimism, because those emotions are catchy, and it's going to help our team to be optimistic as well. And then second, How do you improve your outlook? Well, being aware of when you're feeding that negativity and making sure that you are making a choice to have an optimistic outlook, to be thinking about what you're thinking about and making sure that you're turning those negative thoughts into positive ones. It is your choice. And then we gave you some tactics of specific ways to shift your mind, being aware, feeding your mind with positive things, adding some positive things into your day. Right. To be able to help you and getting your team to join along at the same time.
And just be optimistic with little things like this might not be water.
Well, let's cheers to that. So decide to have a mindset of optimism. It's going to make things a lot better for you as a leader and help you, especially in challenging times in your business or in your life, to be able to take through your company through to be successful on the other side.
Hey, salute.
So thanks for tuning in today. If this has been helpful to you, please share this episode with others. When you share it, when you rate it, when you subscribe to our podcast, it helps the message to get out to others. So share this with other leaders.
And don't forget, slam the bell so if we do this again, when we do this again, you'll get notified.
I've included in today's podcast a leader's guide for you to be able to download, to review for yourself, or it's a great exercise to review with your team. Remember, when you grow as a leader, your team will grow and your company will grow. You can transform your leadership, crush your goals, and love your life. Welcome to Press Pause. On today's episode, we're going to share with you 3 ways that you can start a mindfulness practice. Now, why mindfulness?
That's a great question. Well, we've seen it in our own lives. We've seen it in our clients' lives. And we know that it can impact you in your life if you spend time and learn about mindfulness.
Yes, it will really make a difference. And I know for myself personally, in working in growing other leaders, that one of the things that seems to be holding people back is their mindset. So I ask you today, is your mindset holding you back? Have you found times in your life where that has been the major piece that holds you back from everything that you're meant to be? Well, putting into place a mindfulness practice will help you to have the mindset that you want to have. And it will help you to be able to have a calmer outlook, to feel at peace, to be more content, and to be able to use your passions to grow to that person of utmost potential that you are here for, who you're meant to be. So let's talk about what is mindfulness. First of all, mindfulness, the definition is it's observation without judgment. Observation without judgment. So think about that. I know that in my own life, when I started this mindfulness practice, I realized how often that I judge myself. And you probably have this same thing as well, that if you actually take the time to think about what you're thinking, what's going on in your mind, you'll realize that you will often have judgmental thoughts. That inner critic has a pretty loud voice. I know
Well,
my life.
my life too.
Yes, and in the lives of the clients that we work with. And when you start looking at that and you learn how to, instead of having this judgment about yourself or others, that you're actually spending time looking at things without judgment in a neutral way. So there are 3 main tenets or principles of mindfulness that I'm going to share, and then I'm going to give you 3 quick ways so that you can get started today on a mindfulness practice. So hang with us. So there are 3 main tenets or principles of mindfulness, which I'm going to share, and then I will provide 3 quick ways that you can get started on a mindfulness practice today. Are you ready? Okay, the 3 tenets of mindfulness are humility, objectivity, and acceptance. So let me take a moment to go into each of those. So humility, the opposite of ego. Now, you probably, like me, clients that we work with, ego kind of makes up who we are. And many of you may have gotten to where you are as a very successful entrepreneur by having some ego. That's not necessarily a bad thing unless you let it tip you over to where it's not a positive in your life anymore. You want to be living a life of humility. So being able to do that self-check on your ego is important. The second, and this is a really hard one, is objectivity.
So in everything you're doing in your mindfulness practice, the goal is to get you to a place of objectivity or neutral, because you probably will find as you do this that naturally you may not be very objective. Again, the judgment may come in. You have things that have happened in your past. All of those things that have built up your story up till today creates an influence on the lens of which you look through life. So all of us, to a certain extent, aren't very objective because we are all, I am, Graham is, you are, looking through the lens of your past experiences. So in order to be successful in mindfulness, you need to get objective. You need to be able to have an objective perspective, getting to that neutral place. And then the third tenet is acceptance. And this is not an easy one either. Accept where you are right now. Now, a goal-setting, driven entrepreneur that I know you are, you want to often be here. You're striving for that next thing. And for you, you may have found that you've had a lot of success, maybe even exponential success in your life, but you feel like you're always driving to that next thing. Well, mindfulness is staying present and accepting where you are right now, realizing that there's always room to learn and grow, but to accept where you are right now. So those are the three tenets. So now let's talk about 3 ways that you can incorporate a mindfulness practice starting today. Are you ready? Number 1, begin the practice. Begin by committing that you want to learn more about mindfulness and that you want to put this practice into your life. Commitment is always the first step. Number 2 is what this podcast is all about. Press pause. You need to be intentional about making time for mindfulness, where you can sit quietly and have some observations about what you're thinking and what you're feeling, and do a check on your humility, your objectivity, and your acceptance. And then finally, as you do this practice, begin to just be aware and take notes on what you are thinking about. Why do you do the things that you want to do? Why do you think about certain things and they drive you? And why are there things that you know you don't want to do? And look behind those and look for patterns. What is your normal thinking, your normal storyline that perhaps comes from things of your past or looking for your future versus being there today? So the 3 things are: commit to your learning about it, press pause, make the time to start a mindfulness practice, and then begin in these quiet moments to start observing your own thinking without judgment. And that's how you get started.
Well, you forgot one piece.
What's that?
You're now a mindfulness coach.
Yes, I am. And I'm excited about that. And why did I get this certification? Well, because...
She's an overachiever.
Well, that too. But as I said in the beginning, my passion for mindfulness really came out of realizing that for myself and all of the work that I did in my own life to live my highest potential really came down to the mindset that I had. And a lot of the times, a mindset that was holding me back that I needed to transform. And now as I help you, that is something that I wanted to learn more about. And now that I'm a certified mindfulness coach, I'm excited to share these learnings with you and to help you have this life of joy, of balance, and living up to your full potential. Welcome to Press Pause. Today we're going to talk about how to press pause and get to neutral. So I attended a leadership institute where I learned an interesting concept in self-regulation called getting to neutral. It was really interesting, and I actually talk about it in my book, The Success Lie. So how do you get to neutral? And first of all, what do I mean by this? Well, getting to neutral means you have 3 different emotions that you're likely feeling, and it's either a positive emotion, it's a negative emotion, or it's a neutral emotion. So when you are dealing with a situation where you need to make a decision, when you're in a difficult situation, you want to make sure that you're at neutral, because then you're in the best place that you can be to make those decisions.
Right. And this one's hard for me. Self-regulation has been a learned practice, because my first reaction is just blast people. So
You do a better job than what you think, but you definitely
no,
made
I've learned,
improvement
but
in
I've had to learn it. It's a
Right.
conscious thing. And
Right.
one thing that, jumps out at me is our daughter got in a car accident, and I didn't, it was just get it done, and it was fine. I didn't worry about the incompetent people that were on the other line at the insurance company and how they were just pushing every button to try and get me to say something, blow up, do something, and they didn't want to pay, even though it was 100% the other person's fault, and the car was totaled. They didn't think it was totaled, and we had to work and work and work for a couple of months, and it was really hard not to just blow up at them, which I knew wasn't going to serve me well.
Right, right. Well, and that's a great way to put it. What is going to serve you well in a situation? That's what really makes a difference. And through that entire situation was certainly frustrating. So how would you have reacted in the past? I mean, you did a wonderful job. This just happened a few months ago, and you handled it so beautifully, and it went on for a long time. What would have happened in the past when you weren't self-regulating?
Oh, I would have just tore into the people on the other end of the line, and I would have blown up, and who knows how it would have gone. If I would have reacted rather than just respond, then in responding in a way of, okay, this is my goal, is to get this car resolution figured out, and if I blow up, will it help me at all?
Right.
And it actually, sometimes it's necessary to push. But in this case, my best reaction was just to be in a neutral state, realize that she's safe, and it's just a thing in the car, and that I will win.
Winner's attitude. That's great.
But just being calm about it. It doesn't mean I wasn't irate.
Right.
I was furious.
Right.
And yeah, it was really hard.
And you're going to face things like this in your life. So think about, is there a situation, as we've been talking, that comes to mind for you where you had a bit of an eruption, where maybe you overreacted on something, somebody said something that really made you upset, and you said something upsetting back? Think about that in the last 30 days. What is something that has happened in your life where you weren't neutral? You had either an overly positive response, which maybe wasn't the right response, or a negative response. And what did that look like for you? So bring that to mind a minute. Now I want you to think about what would have looked differently if you would have gotten to neutral before you had that conversation, or before you had your eruption. What could have been different? What would you do different now if you could go back and change that situation? So again, getting to neutral, so important. Realize that you have 3 different emotions: positive, negative, or neutral. And in those challenging situations, get yourself to neutral before going into the situation, and it will make such a difference in your outcomes.
Okay, my friends, today on Press Pause, we're going to talk about how to press pause and take a mindful moment. It's so important for us to be present and mindful, and it's a really hard thing to do. You may start out in the morning with a mindfulness practice. Perhaps you do a meditation practice every morning, and that's great. But do you remain mindful throughout the day? How can you be more mindful throughout the day? Well, press pause and take a mindfulness moment. Well, what does that mean? We talked about before about making space in your day where you can have a space to breathe. Well, make this space time for a mindful moment. And what do I mean? Find a place, even for 5 or 10 minutes, where you can be uninterrupted, that you can have a quiet space for just a few moments, perhaps in your afternoon between meetings, that you find a quiet space in your office where you can shut the door, you could put your do not disturb on the phone. And then I want you to do this. I want you to find a comfortable place that you can sit for just a few moments. You can even turn the light off in your office if that's helpful, or you can even do this in your car. And I want you to just sit. I want you to roll your shoulders up and back. Take a few deep breaths. And then I want you just to quiet yourself down. Now, if you're like me and you're going throughout the day, you may feel like you just have a chaotic schedule and a chaotic mind. So this mindful moment is a time where you can just pause and settle your mind down. So do that with me a moment. I want you, whatever you've been thinking about in your work, if you've been thinking about your kids, if you're thinking about the next thing you have to do, instead just take a moment and go within. So instead of thinking of all the things you have to do, take just a moment and just center yourself. I want you just to focus on your breathing for a moment. You're breathing in and you're breathing out. All you have to do is just feel your breath in your body, breathing in and breathing out. And then I want you to just sit in silence for just a few moments. Just sit in silence. Watch your breathing. That's all you need to do. Focus on that breath going in and out, and in and out. Now, as you're doing this, you're likely going to have thoughts that come and start to swirl in your mind. Well, this is completely normal. This is normal in our brains. They're constantly working. We're constantly thinking. We have thousands and thousands of thoughts every single day, and that's all right. But during this mindful moment, when you see that thought, you're just going to recognize it. Oh, there's a thought. And then you're going to let it just pass you by and come back to your breathing. Just come back to your breath again and watch your breath going in and out and in and out. And spend a few moments doing this. Even a few minutes will make such a difference in your day. Press pause and take a mindful moment.
Hello, friends. Welcome to Press Pause. On today's Press Pause, I'm going to teach you how to be more present in your day through a walking meditation. One of the ways we can be more present is to actually do mindful activities during the day. So we're going to meditate with our eyes open. So I invite you to take me along on a walk, and I'm going to show you how to use your 5 senses to do a walking meditation and meditate with your eyes open. So here we go. As you walk, the first thing that you want to do is you want to look for 5 things that you can see. 5 things that you can see while you're walking. This keeps your mind from going into a number of different places, and you're actually focusing on being right where you are right now. So I'm just going to tell you what I'm seeing on my walk today. I'm actually walking along the waterfront, and I see a very calm water. I see an evergreen tree up ahead. That's 2. There's some big rocks along the way that I'm walking, all different shapes and sizes. That's 3. The sky today is a very blue-gray, lots of different colors in it. That's 4. And 5, I actually see a bird flying overhead. So that's 5 things that I see. Next, I want you to think of 4 things that you feel. What do you feel during your walk? Well, what am I feeling today? I'm feeling the cold air on my cheeks. You may be feeling your feet as they touch the pavement or whatever surface that you're walking on. I feel my fingers and my gloves because it's a cold day. What else do I feel? I feel the way that my jacket and my clothes feel against my skin. Those are 4 things that I feel. How about you? Now, I want you to think of 3 things that you hear. What are you hearing as you're taking your mindful walk today? Well, I just heard a car go by. You might have heard it too. That's 1. I can hear the sound of the water. It's quiet today, but I can hear a little bit of lapping of the water. And I'm hearing those birds flying overhead that I just mentioned a minute ago. So those are 3 things that I hear. I love this kind of mindful walking. We've done 3 senses so far. Now, I want you to think of 2 things you can smell as you're on your mindful walk today. What are 2 things that you smell? What can I smell during my walk? Oh, it's a fresh, cold day, and I can smell the fresh air of being outside. And I smell the salty air of the sea. It's interesting how sometimes you don't even think about your senses because we get so wrapped up in our day. It's wonderful to appreciate the things that we're seeing and hearing and feeling and smelling. Now the 5th sense is taste. I want you to think of 1 thing that you sense in your taste. Maybe it's a drink of water that you had recently, or the mint of your gum. Name 1 thing that you can taste. So you've done it, my friend. You remained mindful with me, and we've used our five senses to meditate with our eyes open. So on today's Press Cause, you've learned a mindful activity that you can incorporate most any time during your day, and especially on a walk.